I know that you won't believe me when I say this, but this is one 300-point team. I promise. Welcome back to Team Tour Tuesday, this time on a Thursday, because we are readjusting our Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday schedule, and we already did a character tour on Red Skull. So if you have not seen that video, make sure to check that out. I'm going to kind of skim through Red Skull, the Hydra officer, and the Hydra agent, since we covered those in that video, but I will give a quick overview here, as this is our full 300-point Red Skull swarm the board with a million Hydra guys team, all courtesy of Imperial Hydra. Huge shout out to one of our commenters for pointing this figure out to me. I had a Red Skull team built that did not have this Imperial Hydra on it. That was a mistake. This piece is awesome, and I love this team so much more now that we have Imperial Hydra. So huge shout out to our commenters for pointing this out to me. So let's just get into the team. This is a 300-point Hydra team that basically resolves around the man in the chair. We're going to go over him last, just because you kind of need a big picture of what the rest of the team is doing in order for his abilities to make more sense, I would say. So we're going to start with Red Skull. So Red Skull here is we're Hydra Man. We have Hail Hydra as our leadership trait, which is very nice that this is traded. Very hard to outwit. And then he has leadership. When he uses it on a 5 or 6, he can summon a Hydra agent instead. If he rolls a 6 and there's no Hydra officers, he can summon one of those instead. Hydra agents are our green guys. Hydra officers are our brown guys. So if you run out of Hydra officers, he can summon them, and you will never run out of Hydra agents because you will always be summoning them. And then this defense ability is what we're actually trying to abuse here. It has combat reflexes, mastermind, and toughness. And once per turn, not per trait with this character, and Red Skull is not unique, which is why we're running a billion Red Skulls. So once per turn, when Red Skull uses mastermind to choose a friendly character with the Hydra keyword, and that character is KO'd from the attack, after resolutions, you may generate 2 Hydra agents on click 3. This is their last click. But if we look at this dial real quick, we can see that these stats are not awful. We have a 6 running shot with a 4 range pulse wave. That range combat expert will kick our pulse wave up to a 10, and if we want to just take normal shots, we're still 10 for 3, which gets over the threshold of every reducer. Even though we're not penetrating damage, we can still hit invincibles, we can still hit imperviouses, and we can still hit invulnerables. So I do like that third click, and if they have some rollout or some really high defense, we can just pulse wave them. It does also come up with some synergies later on, as we will be pulse waving our own guys to kill them on purpose, and when they're on their last click, that makes them pulse waving them to kill them a little bit easier. We also have on our very top click, since we're playing all these Red Skulls on their 40-point line, we have a close combat expert and an outwit. We also have poison, which is very important for the actual way that you kill somebody in this team. So as we can see here, we have that leadership traded. This damage ability is the close combat expert with outwit. Because we are running so many Red Skulls, you will often be able to outwit an entire character's abilities twice, just because you can, or pick 2 different characters and outwit all of their abilities. You will have about 10 Red Skulls on the board at any given time with this team. I am not joking. I have played this team. I did do that many times. You have to get incredibly unlucky in order to not do that, basically, which is why we have so many figures here today, because you will use literally all of them. Then we have a running shot to get a little bit aggressive on the early game with our range. We can do a running shot into a shoot, even though this is range combat. Even though this is close combat expert, it's not great, but, you know, we take it. And we've got poison. Poison is how we're actually going to be killing somebody, because when you have this many characters, your action total gets stretched a little thin. So if we can run all of our Red Skulls up next to somebody, outwit their defense, and poison them 5 times, this is how we actually kill pieces, mixing in with our pulse wavers for just to finish it off, right? Outwit the defense, poison them 5 times, pulse wave them for the kill. That's generally how you're going to actually be taking kills with this team, because it is a little difficult. Now onto the one that Red Skull summons himself, we've got the Hydra Officer. So he has a leadership on his damage ability, which means it does go away and is a little bit easier to outwit. He has leadership, and when he succeeds, he instead may make a Hydra agent. If a 6 was rolled, you can remove an action token from every friendly Hydra agent, which is useful for our action economy, just making sure that our pulse waivers don't have 2 action tokens. Other than that, he's nothing really special. He's got that Hydra team ability. He's only 25 points. He's got Mastermind on his top 2 clicks, which is very nice, along with that Blades and Stealth. So if the opponent wants to deal with him, they have to run up next to him, hit him, you Mastermind to a little idiot, then you get to Blades them back. Not awful. Hopefully you leadership to summon another guy, so you can pulse Blades them, hit them, summon the guy, pulse wave, you know, get some good damage in. He also has enhancement on those lower clicks in case you do actually want to take shots with these guys on their 3rd click. That will put them up with their own range combat expert to a 10 attack 4 damage if they're standing next to the enhancement version of him. But since he loses stealth and he only has 2 damage there, he often will die before that happens, realistically. And lastly, for this little trio, we've got the Hydra Agent. So this figure is nothing special, doesn't have any traded abilities. It is only 15 points and 3 clicks long for a running shot pulse waver. The pulse wave will always be at 10 attack because of our range combat expert. And if your opponent wants to waste outwits turning off that range combat expert, that's fine. You're gonna have 15 Hydra Agents. So if they outwit one of them, just don't attack with that one and you'll be totally fine. So we only have a running shot of 3 and then a range of 4. So with that pulse wave halves our range. So we do only get to move 3 squares and then pulse wave 2 squares. But since this is such a swarming team, that's actually a good thing because otherwise we'll be pulse waving too many of our own guys. Positioning to hit your opponents, multiple of your opponent's guys can be a little tricky sometimes, but it's fairly easy to hit at least one of their characters, which is important. Next up, we've got Multiple Man. So this figure, and we've shown off on the channel a couple times before, but this figure is very, very good. We are playing him at his top dial. I believe it was a 50-point line. It's a 40-point line. Would you look at that? So Multiple Man has this very, very funny trait. Multiple Man isn't a standard character. That means he cannot be equipped and he cannot be TK'd. He can still carry people, and he can still be masterminded too, which is very important. If Multiple Man started the game on click 9, he has 0 points for all effects, including scoring, and that ability is protected from pulse wave. So, there's no really way to turn that off. But how are we starting him on click 9? Well, that's that second trait. Multiple Man takes a maximum of 2 damage from all attacks. Whenever Multiple Man takes damage during your opponent's turn, after resolutions, generate a Multiple Man on click 9. Damage taken as a result of an effect that reduces or otherwise effect damage are applied. So if he gets poisoned, you still make a guy. As long as he takes damage on your opponent's turn, and this is also not once per turn, so if they poison him 3 different times, you spit out 3 different baby Multiple Men. Very, very nice. But yeah, so he only takes a maximum of 2 damage, and then he spits out a little goon. Multiple Man here does not have the Hydra team ability. He does have the Hydra keyword, but he does not have the Hydra team ability, but he does have that Underworld keyword, which means that he can carry 1 character if they share a keyword with him, and 2 characters if they are less points than him, which is everybody on this team except for Red Skull, our man in the chair who never moves anyways, and this guy who's another carrying bot. So you're going to be carrying around these little green guys and the little brown guys with our Multiple Man, as well as your other tiny little 0-point Multiple Men. So Multiple Man is one of our major carriers. This team definitely struggles from not being able to move your guys out of your base. And as a result, we have to have many carriers, redundant carriers. That's why we have this guy who, spoiler alert, has Passenger 4 for Hydras, and this guy has Underworld who can carry 2. Again, can't carry the Red Skulls, but that's fine. We just move our Pulse Waivers into position, or our guys that summon Pulse Waivers into position. As well as having a redundant leadership to try and remove tokens from Red Skulls or a man in chair. He has Stealth on his top click and then goes to Steal Energy to try and heal back up some of those abilities. One of the very, very, very nice synergies in this team is with Red Skull. Red Skull, while standing next to Multiple Man, can still mastermind to him. So if they pump 17 damage into Red Skull, you can mastermind to Multiple Man. Multiple Man will take 2 damage and spit out a Multiple Man clone. Then if they try to shoot Red Skull again, you can mastermind to the tiny Multiple Man that has only 1 health. It will kill it. They will not score any points. This is a Hydra unit that is dying by his mastermind, so you will then summon 2 Pulse Waivers. And then if they want to shoot him again, you can just mastermind back to the original Multiple Man, who will then spit out another little goon. And then you can just keep looping that cycle. Also, keep this in mind, that's a lot of Hydras dying. Imperial Man in the chair will care about that in a minute. But this is why Multiple Man is on the team. 1, as a redundant carrier, although he is not as strong as the Hydra Falcon. For a carrier, he is still very good at carrying pieces around, and he can synergize extremely well with Red Skull to keep all of them alive for a very long time. Next up, we've got the Hydra Falcon. Sometimes I call this guy the Hydra the Falcon. Sometimes I call this guy the Falcon the Hydra. He's weirdly named because in this set there was 2 the Hydras. It's that little goob thing on him. That's the Hydra, and it's controlling the Falcon. But this is what we care about. So unique modifiers. Friendly characters within 6 squares with the Hydra keyword modify defense +1 against range attacks. So as long as this Falcon Hydra, the Falcon, is not within range of the Pulse Wave from these little guys, he will buff all of your defenses by +1. This is a little bit relevant, although mostly we're running him for this damage ability. But we'll go ahead and look at the attack ability as well. He's got Precision Strike, and when the Hydra hits after resolutions, give an action token to a hit character that can't use Willpower. He also has this click on his Flurry click. So you will be flurrying, hitting Precision Strike, you'll hit them twice, deal at least 1 damage each time because of Precision Strike, hopefully get through their rollout of Super Senses if they have that, and then give them 2 action tokens, which is pretty nice, I'm not going to lie. And then the main reason that we're running him, the Passenger 4, but only to carry characters with the Hydra keyword. Like I alluded to earlier, this team is very hard to get all of your guys out. You have about 15 guys on the board and 4 action tokens. You will always have 4 because you have half your team has leadership and everybody you're summoning will have leadership, but you are restricted to 4. There has been many games where I've had actually 20 characters on the board and 4 actions in a 300-point game. So you need to be able to move people, and that's where our multiple man and the Hydra the Falcon come in, by being able to carry people. The Hydra the Falcon also has at least a decent dial. He is 50 points, and he's got that special damaging power, the carrying ability, only on his top click, which is a little frustrating. But that's mostly what we're using him for. He's just basically a taxi. He's not supposed to get into melee. If he does accidentally end up taking hits, it just kind of sucks, and you kind of have to suicide him into your opponent's team. Hopefully you can get some precision strike flurry shenanigans going on as well, but he's mostly just going to be running up, depositing 4 characters, running back to reload, to deposit for 4 more characters, to running back to reload. That's kind of what you want to be doing with him. Multiple man can stay a little bit more in the field and wants to be kind of repositioning these guys, since this is our way to carry our red skulls out, and our red skulls are what clogs us, and this is our way to reposition our pulse wavers after we're done pulse waving. So that is what we want to be doing with these guys. We want to be summoning a bunch of red skulls, summoning a bunch of little idiots, and then killing off our own little idiots to summon more little idiots through multiple man clones or Hydra officers, and this guy's carrying everybody around. Now, the actual piece that brings this whole team together. 2 heads shall take their place. This traded ability from Imperial Hydra. Fortunately, this card does make this team Bronze Age, so you can only play this in Bronze Age events, but this character is worth it all on its own. It is unique, and goddamn does it need to be. So this trait says, when another friendly character with the Hydra keyword is KO'd and actions resolved, we give Imperial Hydra an action token. This does not count for your action token total per turn because it is not a costed action. It is just kind of an effect that gives him this token, not a cost that gives him this token. So if you can trigger this on your own turn by pulse waving your own guys, this will not count towards your action total, or against your action total, I should say. If you do, given the token, roll a d6 that cannot be re-rolled. On a 4 or 5, you place a character from outside the game with the Hydra keyword of 40 points or less adjacent to Imperial Hydra. On a 6, you place up to 2 characters from outside the game with the Hydra keyword and 40 points or less adjacent to Imperial Hydra. Red Skull is 40 points. This is where the team comes together. Every single time one of your 3 health, 15-point Hydra officers dies to an opponent's effect, your own pulse wave, or your own mastermind, you get to put a token on him and roll a d6. You have a 50% chance to summon at least 1 Red Skull, and a 1 in 6 to summon 2. And then on your next turn, both of those Red Skulls will be using their leadership roles to try and summon more guys that you can then kill to your own pulse wave or whatever, and he just keeps spitting out idiots. Since he does not ever get costed action tokens during your turn, he always clears at the end of your turn. The only time that he has action tokens on him is in the middle of your turn, or sometimes on your opponent's turn. He never moves, he sits in base, and he has Mastermind, so you sit him in base next to one of these guys. They are only going to have realistically 1 shot at him, because you're just going to block line of fire with a million guys, and even if they do, you Mastermind it over to your Hydra officer, it dies, you summon out a Red Skull summons out another Hydra officer, and your opponent wants to kill themselves. He technically has some other abilities on him that you do need to not forget, but this 2 heads shall take their place ability is the key thing that we are trying to abuse here. It is honestly worth it to run a tarot deck just for the 1 card that says single d6 rolls get +1. That will affect all of your leaderships and this roll as well, turning your 50% chance to summoning 1 or 2 into a 2/3 chance to summon 1 Red Skull and a 1/3 chance to summon 2 Red Skulls. This piece is insane, and why we have so many Red Skulls. Because realistically, probably going to have about 5 to 6 of these guys on board. You can't ever summon more of these guys unless one of them is dead with the Red Skull rolling a 6, so you only ever need 2 of those. With our multiple man, technically, you should probably be playing 5 of this total, with 4 kind of off to the side for when he takes damage, because he does have 5 clicks of life, and if he takes 1 damage 1 at a time, 4 clicks before he dies, can summon 4 of those guys, so you need 5 total. And then I have 30 Red Skulls. I have had 10 Red Skulls on the board at a time. Now, realistically, 30 is a bit much, but you could do it. Right? If you play with friends and you don't go to time and you don't keep track of points and you're just going to try and kill the other team, see who does that first, you cannot lose. This team does not lose unless you're playing in time or tracking points to go to that 400 point total. Because keep in mind, every single time they kill one of these guys, they do score its points, and as soon as their point total reaches 400 or 100 over the starting game total, they automatically win the game. Now, if you want to be friendly, keep track of that for your opponent. If you want to be a dick, Don't tell your opponent, and then when they ask how many you've killed, say, I don't know, you're in charge of tracking that, because technically they are. So they just play, and then at the end of the game, they'll be like, I think I killed like 5 of these things when they killed like 9, right? Listen, it's a little underhanded, but we're Hydra. What do you expect? Going back to our Hydra man in the chair for his other trait. When Imperial Hydra takes damage from an attack after actions resolved, you may choose one character adjacent to the attacker and deal them 1 penetrating damage, and counter that character's defense power until the end of your next turn. So this is a way to give himself a little bit of defense if he does somehow manage to get shot through a mastermind, through some whatever, through some shenanigans, right? Then you get to tap one of the enemies back, and then their defense powers are off, so your Red Skulls can run over there and poison the shit out of them. Also, keep in mind, our Red Skulls all have outwit here. We can just outwit anything that allows them to see him, right? Or to shoot through him. If they have something that ignores his mastermind, outwit that. They have something that sees through characters, outwit that, if possible. That one's a little harder to outwit, but sometimes you can outwit that. It is crazy. We also have a special damage power on this guy. Imperial Hydra can use leadership, so this is another leadership, very nice. This leadership is often used to take off the token from our carrier, since he's going to run back to base and reload with those Red Skulls. And then, when he does and succeeds, he may instead remove an action token from a friendly character with the Hydra keyword that's within 3 squares, regardless of point value. So everybody is less points in value than him. Also, everybody shares keywords. It's kind of old wording on leadership. But you don't actually need to be straight adjacent to him in order for him to pull off a token from you. You can be within 3 squares, which is very nice for positioning, since you don't want to block the squares that he can summon Red Skulls in, because you will not be able to summon Red Skulls because all 9 squares that surround him are occupied by Red Skulls, or these guys. This has happened many times. In the few games that I've played with this team, it has happened many, many turns in a row. So, this is our Hydra Swarm, Imperial Hydra, Big Man in the Chair, Infinite Red Skulls, Obscene Swarm team. The only thing that this team does not do exceptionally well is actually kill your opponent, unfortunately. This team is almost impossible to completely wipe off the board. It has not even been close to happening to me, but theoretically, if you miss every single one of your 50% rolls with this, you might get whittled down a little bit. And that's assuming they're playing around his mastermind to summon more guys, which is then more fodder for that. Like, it's just a crazy team. This is just an insane team. The main struggles that you have are managing your action economy. So you only have 4 actions per turn. Almost all of your guys are attacking on 10s. So if your opponent has like a 20 defense, you're just kind of not going to hit them. That's where the poisoning comes in. Hopefully you can outwit their defense and poison them. If they're cosmic and they have a reducer, sucks, I guess. Try to pulse wave them, I guess, off their shit, or try and shoot them off of their shit. I don't know. I got nothing for you. And this team gets clogged. So you do have to keep him alive, especially in the mid game. In the early game, it's not as important. I like to just kind of move him about quarter way up the board so I can deposit all my Red Skulls so they can start summoning my pulse wavers within range of my opponent if they want to move up, and then retreat him back and have him sit there for a little bit. Wait for him to load up on more Red Skulls, then bring him all the way out to the board at his maximum 10 range. Drop off 4 Red Skulls and maybe one of these guys to boot, summon a bunch of more of these guys, start out winning. Very, very useful strategy, especially if you can use him to surround your opponent in Red Skulls, then you can start poisoning them. If you are wanting to play this team at 400 points, there's one change that I would make. I would cut this guy and run, there's an Arnim Zola that has triple target, mind control only to allies if there is another copy of them on the board. Since we are going to have a billion Red Skulls, and by that, a billion Hydra officers, we can be using that guy's mind control to mind control our Red Skulls to start shooting, start moving things into position. We can get free pulse waves off with that because it's a triple target mind control. Everybody here has really shit defenses, so he should be hitting basically everybody. And technically, if he is surrounded by other Hydras, when he's targeting your friendlies for the range attack of a mind control, the Hydra team ability will drop their defenses. So that's just another option available to you. That is for a 400-point team because that Arnim Zola is 125 points. Since this is a 300-point team, we have to cut our 25-point guy and put in another 100 points with that Arnim Zola. That would be the only change that I would make to this team going to 400 points. That is a hesitant change. I haven't found anything significantly better, but I have not done a crazy amount of looking. But that is the version that I'm going to be running this team for 400 points. I have ordered that Arnim Zola in the mail. It's on the way. Another big benefit about this team, it is obscenely cheap. Multiple Man is a common. He's like a $2 or $3 common, but if you just open some Rise and Fall that he's the set that he's from, super cheap. These things are commons. If you've opened any Avengers Forever, you have a bunch of these. These guys are uncommons. Red Skulls are rare, but he has $1. I know this because I bought 30 of them. He has $1 online. You're gonna have to pay some shipping, but he's $1. Imperial Hydra, I think, is like between $1 and $5. He is super cheap. And then this guy is also between $1 and $5. He's an uncommon. This team is obscenely budget friendly. The only limit is how many red skulls you think you're actually going to summon. You could build this whole team for probably like 20 bucks. And if you only have 10 red skulls, that's fine. That's going to be enough, right? 10 red skulls, maybe 8 to 10 of these guys. Realistically, you can run 3 of this guy, which is the only one I have, and then these 2 and some of these guys. You're good to go. This is a very budget-friendly team. It's a very fun team. I highly recommend trying this team out for yourself. If you have some number of these pieces, please, please, please play this team against your friend. It is some of the most fun you will have in HeroClix. Summoning infinite guys is so much more fun than winning this game. I promise. I am a very competitive player. I want to win. This is the only team that I do not care about if I win or not, because just playing it is so fun. It is amazing. If you like the video, if you like our wacky builds here, our Infinite Hydra's Hydra team, please give us a like and a subscribe. It does help us please the YouTube gods. And if you have any comments for what you want to see next, let us know. Like I said, this guy was brought to our attention by commenters. So we do read all of our comments. We try to respond and reply to as many as we can. And we're keeping an eye on that stuff for anything that you guys are looking out for. So let us know what you want to see. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.